What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy Lil Hater back at it again with a brand new video. And today for you guys, we're gonna be watching He Drank My Blood to Survive IMR Scary Tales videos once again. These people make these videos, they're absolutely insane. Big shout out to them. Big shout out to them. One, Happy New Year's, guys. I'm back. I had some technical difficulties with some of my equipment. That's why I had to stop. But I am back. We're going back to full-time YouTube and part-time streaming. As y'all notice, there is different things, as y'all can see, different things, big different things. We got more things coming. By March, you'll see a drastic change in the room. So, like I said, there will be a full video on what's been going on, what's the future of the channel, and just letting y'all know what's been going on with your boy. But without further ado, let's get right into this video. He drank her blood to survive. Alright, let's get right to this.
Back then, I was just a 16-year-old girl, a kid stuck in a house that felt more like a prison. My parents, Naoma and Richard, weren't cruel, but they didn't get me.
Parents look
That's
sus,
when I met Rod. It was at a party. I wasn't even supposed to be at it. He wasn't like anyone I'd ever met before. Tall, pale, and intense, with these dark, deep-set eyes that seemed to see straight into your soul. He wasn't just different, he was magnetic. People hovered around him, hanging on every word. I started seeing him more after that night. At first, it was just harmless curiosity. He talked about freedom, about breaking away from the chains of society. It sounded so dramatic, so ridiculous, but also so exciting. Rod wasn't just talking. He believed he was a vampire. He said it so seriously with such conviction that you couldn't laugh. "We're immortals," he'd say, "unbound by their rules, eternal, free." I thought it was just a metaphor, a weird theatrical way of saying he didn't fit in. But then I saw the cuts on his arms. He'd sliced his skin open with a blade and let the blood drip into a goblet. His movements slow and ritualistic. He'd close his eyes, whispering words I didn't understand like he was summoning something. Then he'd drink. His followers would do the same, each taking their
What the fuck? That's disgusting. That's
turn to sip from the goblet. They'd lick their lips, their eyes glassy, almost euphoric. It wasn't just blood, it was power to them. "Do you want to taste eternity?" he asked me once, holding the goblet out. I shook my head, my stomach twisting, but the others, they lapped it up. Rod's
family
was a group of outcasts who clung to him like moths to a flame. They wore black, painted their nails, and sharpened their teeth into fangs. Their skin was pale, almost sickly from avoiding the sun. At night, they'd gather in abandoned buildings or deep in the woods. They called it the
ritual of awakening.
Candles would burn in a circle, casting shadows that seemed to dance on their own. They'd chant in low, guttural tones, words that just felt wrong to hear. One night, I saw them kill a bird, a small, trembling thing they'd caught in the woods. Rod held it in his hands, whispering something to it like a prayer. Then, with a swift motion, he snapped its neck. Blood dripped onto the ground as the others knelt, pressing their foreheads to the dirt, murmuring, "We drink to the night."
Absolutely not.
It was horrifying. It was hypnotic. And I couldn't look.
My question is, why is she still there? Why are we still here? Why are we still here doing this? Why are we just standing here watching? Like, I'll be out of there. Get out of there. What are we doing?
Away. Rod made me feel seen. My parents didn't care what I wanted or who I was. But Rod, he listened. He understood.
Hell no.
"They'll never let you be who you are," he'd say, his voice low and hypnotic. "They're holding you back, Heather, but I can set you free." At first, I didn't take it seriously. But then the fights with my parents got worse. They didn't like the new friends I was hanging out with, the late nights, the lies.
"You're throwing your life away!"
My mom screamed one night after I snuck back in. Maybe she was right, but I didn't care. One night I broke down. I told Rod I couldn't take it anymore. I wanted out. "They're the reason you're miserable," he said. "They're your cage." I nodded, tears streaming down my face. "I'll help you escape," he promised, his eyes glinting in the dark. "But freedom has a cost." The night it happened, I wasn't supposed to be awake. Rod told me to leave the back door unlocked. "I'll take care of everything," he said. I thought he meant we'd run away, but then I heard it. The creak of the door, the sound of heavy boots on the floor. I stayed in my room, frozen, my heart pounding. And then came the first thud. It was loud, sickening, like a wet slap. I heard my father yell, a short, sharp cry that was cut off too soon. I crept to the edge of the hallway and my breath caught in my throat. That's when I saw Rod. He was standing over my father's body, a crowbar in his hands. Blood dripped from its end, pooling around my dad's head. I gasped before I could stop myself. Rod turned, his face lit with something between triumph and madness. "It's done," he said. "You're free now." But it wasn't done. My mom was still alive. She was crawling toward me, her hands smearing blood across the carpet.
"Help me,"
she choked, her voice barely a whisper. But Rod didn't stop. He raised the crowbar again and brought it down with a sickening crunch. I screamed, but no sound came out.
And she
We
just
fled
standing there.
that night. Rod and the others piled into a car, laughing like it was all some grand adventure. But I couldn't stop shaking. I couldn't close my eyes without seeing their faces. My dad's lifeless eyes, my mom's outstretched hand, the blood. It was everywhere.
Wow.
Rod kept saying he did it for me, that we were free now, that we could start our
Eternal life.
together. But I didn't feel free. I felt trapped in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from.
Absolutely
In
not.
1996, a 16-year-old self-proclaimed vampire cult leader, Rod Farrell, brutally killed Richard and Naoma Wendorf
Nah, fuck off. This ain't real. Nah. Ain't no shot.
in their Florida home. Farrell, part of a group of teens involved in occult practices, bludgeoned the couple to death with a crowbar while leading a plan to help their daughter, Heather, run away. The murders were fueled by Farrell's delusional belief in vampirism and his role as a leader of the vampire clan. Arrested in Louisiana, he became the youngest person on death row in the U.S., later resentenced to life in prison without parole.
What the fuck?
The night
That's
felt
sickening.
ordinary, like any other in our quiet Salt Lake City neighborhood. Dinner had been a blur of laughter and clinking silverware. Afterward, I spent hours in my room, scribbling in my journal and humming a song that had been stuck in my head all week. Finally, I curled up in bed, and cool sheets enfolded me into a deep, dreamless sleep. I was sleeping in my bed when I heard the sound, quiet, like a creak in the floorboards. My mind stirred, but I didn't open my eyes. It wasn't until I felt the cold steel of a knife against my neck.
Shit.
"Don't make a sound," a voice of a man whispered, low and threatening. I froze, my body paralyzed by fear. His hand was rough as he pulled me out of bed, his grip firm as he led me through the dark hallways of my house. My family was just a few feet away, yet I couldn't scream. He'd kill them. He said he would. The night was cold as he took me out into the woods where I met his wife as well. The man, Brian, went on about being a prophet and how I was the chosen one. He was chatting with himself like mad.
Chosen one, yeah? What the fuck?
Meanwhile, Wanda kept chuckling at me matching his madness.
Nah.
This is your life now.
She said, as they chained me to a tree. I was sitting on the cold ground with the chain constricting my ankle tight. I tried to break the chains, but ended uprooting two of my fingernails. I screamed in pain as blood sprinkled on my cloth. Wanda's laughter got louder, seeing me struggle like a trapped mouse.
Ew. That's wild. See, the wildest thing is there's actually people like this in the world. Like, we walk past people just like this all the time, and nobody notices it. That's the wildest thing to think about.
They did a weird ritual that night. They mad couple dance around the fire pit. Wanda pulled hair off my skull, tearing a patch of my scalp. I cried and cried, but my tears were nothing to them. Days blurred into nights. Brian and Wanda fed me scraps of food, just enough to keep me alive. Brian would talk endlessly about his delusions, calling me his wife, and insisting that it was God's plan. Wanda watched me constantly, her gaze as sharp as a knife. One day, Brian declared that we had to move. He dressed me in a dirty robe and veil that covered my face. "No one will recognize you now," he said, his voice full of smugness. We walked down suburban streets with Brian, preaching to strangers about his strange beliefs. I was right there, but hidden under the veil. I wanted to scream for help, to tear off the mask and beg somebody to notice me, but Brian's voice echoed in my mind. "If you try to escape, I'll kill your family." Then, one night, I summed up my broken courage. I worked for hours on the chain around my ankle, my fingers raw, my heart pounding at every creak of the links. I finally got it loose, stood up and ran, my feet slipping on uneven ground. A branch snapped beneath me, and that was all it took. Brian was on me in seconds, dragging me back with a snarl. "You'll never leave us," he screamed. Months passed. I stopped keeping track of time. Winter came and went, and they still had me captive. But I began to see cracks in their control. Wanda was growing paranoid, snapping at Brian and crying more often. Brian seemed distracted, wandering off for longer periods. Then, morning again, Brian declared, "We gotta go to the city." He dressed me in the same dirty robe and veil, and dragged me along as he preached to anyone who could hear him. We were in Sandy, Utah, when a police car slowed as it passed us. My heart pounded as the officers stepped out, their eyes scanning the three of us. Brian tried to wave them off, his voice calm but his body tense. One of the officers looked directly at me. "What's your name?" he asked. I hesitated. Could I trust him? What if Brian was right? What if he hurt my family? But then I thought of my mom, my dad, my siblings. They were out there waiting for me. I pulled the veil back, my voice shaking. I spoke.
I am Elizabeth. I want to go home. Please help me.
"Stand back, you're under arrest!" The officers moved fast, pulling me away from Brian and Wanda, and sitting in the back of the patrol car, tears streaming down my face. Relief washed over me. In June 2002,
There's no way that shit. There's no way. So these are all real then, huh? These must be real.
14-year-old Elizabeth Smart was abducted from her bedroom at knife point by Brian David Mitchell and his accomplice Wanda Barzee. Mitchell, a self-proclaimed prophet, held Elizabeth captive for 9 months, subjecting her to abuse and manipulation. She was moved frequently to evade detection. Elizabeth was rescued in March 2003 after being spotted in public with her captors. Her survival and recovery inspired widespread media attention, advocacy for missing children, and reforms in child safety legislation. Mitchell received a life sentence, while his wife Wanda Barzee served 15 years in prison.
Wow. What the fuck?
I used to think the world was a safe place. My home was safe. The school was safe.
Definitely not the
Everything
case, bro.
had its rhythm, predictable and normal. That illusion shattered the day Miss Zamora entered my life. At first, I didn't think much of her. She was young, confident, and carried herself like she was above it all. The boys in class whispered about how hot she was. Even some of the girls seemed drawn to her charm. But there was something about her, something just beneath the surface that didn't sit right. Her smile was too perfect, too sharp, like a blade disguised as a compliment. I couldn't have known then how much darkness she carried. The first time it happened, it felt small, like a pebble thrown into the calm waters of my life.
Ethan,
She said during class, her voice carrying that sing-song tone that made everyone sit up a little straighter.
Are you even trying? How hard is it to spell opportunity?
The class laughed,
What?
and my cheeks burned. It wasn't the first time a teacher had called me out, but this felt different. Her eyes stayed on me a little too long, and her
Hey, that
lips
Twitch was
curved
wild,
into that
you know.
razor-sharp
Twitch
smile.
was wild.
I told myself I was imagining things. It didn't stop there. The next week, she made me stay after class.
Ethan, you need extra help.
She said, her tone smooth, almost kind.
What the hell?
I stood by my desk, fidgeting as she walked around me. The classroom was empty, the echoes of students' chatter fading down the hallway.
You're bright,
She said, her voice dropping.
but you don't apply yourself.
What the fuck?
Maybe
Being
you
real
need
strange.
someone to push you.
The way she said it sent a shiver through me. Her perfume hung heavy in the air, sweet
push him.
but suffocating. I nodded quickly, eager to escape. The next time she kept me after school, she locked the door. That's when the walls
wait
of
a
my
minute.
life
Getting
began to
interesting.
close
Hold on,
in.
man.
Do you know why I keep you back, Ethan?
She asked,
I'm curious.
sitting on the edge of her desk, legs crossed.
Because I see potential in you.
Oh,
And I don't want anyone else to ruin it.
oh. Eyebrow raise is outrageous.
She leaned forward, her voice softening.
This is just between us, okay?
Oh,
You wouldn't want anyone to misunderstand.
I wanted to run, to tell
I'm curious.
someone, but the way
Is she
she
trying
looked
to,
at
like,
me, it froze
you know what I
me in
mean? Like,
place.
she's trying to do some
Her
strange to my
eyes
boy or
weren't just
something.
looking at me, they were looking through me, peeling me apart like she was
Damn,
searching for
she's
something to
staring hard at my
use.
man, yo. I ain't
The
gonna lie.
threats started soon after. One afternoon, when I tried to leave, she blocked the door.
Ethan,
She said, her tone
Alright,
as
she's trying to
sweet as
fuck,
sugar,
bro. She's trying to fuck.
but laced with something venomous.
you don't want to disappoint me,
Head ass.
do you? Or hurt your family?
My blood ran cold. What do you mean? I
What do you mean
stammered.
by that?
She smiled, tilting her head like she was talking to a small child.
It would be such a shame if your parents got a phone call about bad behaviors. Or if your little sister got hurt on her way home from school.
Her eyes narrowed.
What the
Do you
fuck is
understand
she
what I'm
talking
saying?
I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. The text began a week
What?
later. At first, they seemed innocent enough. Questions about homework and reminders about assignments. But they quickly changed.
You look good in class today, Ethan. I think we have a connection.
Oi, but bruv,
Don't you?
she wants
The messages made my stomach churn. She sent them throughout the school's chat app, so I couldn't block her. Then the photos started. At first, it was just her smiling, but soon they became something worse. Her blouse unbuttoned, her lips pursed. I deleted them as fast as I could, but the images stayed burned in my mind. I began avoiding her, but she always found me. In class, her hand would brush against my shoulder, lingering just long enough to make my skin
this is
crawl.
weird, I ain't
She'd
gonna
lean
lie.
in close when no one was looking, her breath hot against my ear.
You're mine, Ethan.
She whispered
stinking
once.
ass, bruh.
Don't forget that.
I stopped sleeping. Every creak in the house sounded like her. Every shadow felt like she was there, watching.
What?
I couldn't eat. I couldn't think. My friends noticed, but what could I say? She was a teacher, an adult. Who would believe me? I couldn't take it anymore.
That's
One
wild.
night, I showed the message to my dad. He sat in silence, his hands gripping the phone so hard that I thought he might crush it. His face turned white, then red, then something I'd never seen before. Pure, seething rage. "She'll never hurt you again," he said, his voice shaking. The next day, he
What?
reported her to the school and the police. Everything happened in a blur after that. Detectives asked
Hey,
me
yo,
questions
Pops was pissed. God damn.
I could barely answer. Reporters
Pops
started
was
showing up
pissed.
at our house. Miss Zamora got arrested, and I finally got my life back. In 2018, Brittany Zamora, a 27-year-old
2018. What? This is recent?
teacher in Goodyear, Arizona, was arrested for sexually abusing her 13-year-old student. She groomed the boy through text messages and engaged in sexual acts with him multiple times. including in her car and classroom. The abuse was discovered when the victim's parents found explicit messages on his phone using a monitoring app. Police also revealed that Zamora manipulated other students to keep her secret. She pleaded guilty to multiple charges of sexual conduct with a minor and was sentenced for 20 years.
That is fucking insane. But that is the end of this video. I am back. We are back doing full-time YouTube. Well, not full-time, but really posting videos every week, starting today. This video was absolutely wild. Wow. But yes, so like I said, we will be back doing regular YouTube. We're gonna start streaming again next weekend. So I believe that should be like the 11th and the 12th. But yes, if you guys like this kind of content, make sure you guys smash the like button. And if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button to join the most hated gang on YouTube. And I will see you guys next time. Peace out.